If my daughter kills herself because some ho tyrant tossed her oxygen tank, I'll make sure the next tank she sees is in a prison infirmary. That vow seared its way through me as I stood and watched my 9-month-old Sophie gasping for air, her tiny chest heaving as paramedics rushed sirens screaming outside this nightmare. Every heart-topping second because of one woman, Linda Harper, the HOA president with a clipboard of fake rules and a love of neighborhood charm. She didn't know she'd just gotten into a fight with the wrong guy. I wasn't merely Sophie's father or some property owner. I was a state health inspector, and her little empire was going to choke on its own conceit. It started out innocently enough that morning: blue skies, crisp air, ideal for placing Sophie's portable oxygen unit on the porch, while HVAC repairs temporarily disconnected her main system for a few hours. The porch was safe, shaded, visible near the backup tank I'd stored in a marked case. Medical use only, do not touch. I put a biohazard sticker on it, just in case Sophie slept inside her monitor. Glowing green. Then I saw Harinda patrolling like a warden in her gaudy straw hat and oversized sunglasses, clipboard clutched like a scepter. She halted at my porch, eyeing the tank like it had insulted her. I came out, forcing a smile. "Morning, Linda. It's just Sophie's backup oxygen for the repairs." Temporarily, her lips pursed. "It's seen from the street, unapproved." I stayed calm. "It's only for a few hours. Sophie needs it." So she wrote furiously, "Contravenes visual harmony, warning of words for now." My fists clenched. "Linda, this is for my medially fragile daughter." She snapped, "I don't need a parenting lecture from someone littering with toxic trash," and stormed off appalled. I shook it off. I had to get Sophie's prescription. The tank was secure, my housewife at the hospital on a late shift. I kissed Sophie, checked the monitor, and left 25 minutes. That's all it took. I returned to an empty porch. The tank was Ganino wind, no accident, just missing my stomach. Plummeted. I reviewed the porch camera, and there she was. Linda gloved hands, wrestling the tank, muttering, "This is eyesore's got to go." She pulled it to the sidewalk and my blood froze. I ran to the HOA dumpster. There it was, knocked over, ruined, its warning stamps screaming. Then the baby monitor wailed, wailing long, ear-piercing beeps, red flashing lights. I ran in, scooped Sophie up, and saw her lips blue. Her breath shallow, my hands shaking as I dialed 911. Choking out, "My daughter can't breathe." Her oxygen tank was stolen. Paramedics arrived in minutes, fitting a mask on Sophie, while I rode alongside her to the ER, holding on to her small hand. Seeing color return to her cheeks, she steadied, thank God. But I didn't that night. Linda's smug face in the video repeatedly looping in my head, her house lit up TV blinking, maybe pleased with herself. I had been on my porch, the dumpster lit up by a street lamp, my anger barely controlled. Then I considered who I was, a health inspector who'd enforced down crooked clinics and uncovered dirtbag CEOs. Linda had made her power trip a felony. She'd modified a child's life-saving device on tape tomorrow. I'd unleash hell. Morning arrived deceptively peaceful. Sophie slept upstairs. Oxygen level stable. I sat at my laptop, assembling evidence with surgical precise footage, screenshots, state health codes. Years of busting infractions had honed me to the telling clue, and now I was bringing down the queen of the cul-de-sac. First, I perused the HOA bylaws on Linnea Shoddy website with a 2000 stock photo and a PDF of standards. It was a mess. Font, changes pages on mailbox colors, nothing on medical equipment. Linda had neither invented a rule nor twisted a vague one. The Fair Housing Act and ADA were clear. Tossing medical gear was a legal landmine. I called the ADA Compliance Board and a HUD contact filing complaints as a state official. Not a furious dad within hours. 2 investigations were initiated, but I demanded more. I spoke to neighbors, quietly catching them at mailboxes or walks with canines exchanging Sophie's story. The floodgates opened. An older couple had been fined for a wooden bench. A mother cried, complaining Linda stole her autistic son's sensory table because it was messy. A war veteran was ticketed for too many flags on Veterans Day. Each story carried fear and defeat. Linda acted in revenge, issuing fines, liens, or shaming emails. One struck a chord. Maria, whose husband died of lung cancer, showed me a picture of their oxygen tank with Linda's memo. "This isn't a hospital. Keep it tidy." The anguish in her eyes said it all. I collected 20 witness statements, assembling a file of Linda's persecution. Next, I interviewed the HOA board. A formal records request revealed only 2 of 5 members were valid. The rest were Linda's yes men or no-shows. Next, I learned her smoking gun, a rule, emergency storage prohibition, prohibiting visible medical equipment. It wasn't in the bylaws, the PDF metadata disclosed. Linda added it onto her home compute vote. Minutes, brazen fraud, she'd made stuff up policy-wise to penalize what annoyed her. Now I had her on endangering Sophie and creating fake documents, a criminal to wrap it up. I concocted a sting with a neighbor, Mr. Thompson, an ex-engineer whose wife wore a CPAP. He set a tagged tank of oxygen onto his patio, and we hid a camera 2 days later. Linda struck, pulling the tank to the curb, muttering, "This isn't a clinic, only people who belong here." The footage was gold, Exhibit C. In my expanding case, I called an informal resident meeting, flying for an HOA abuse discussion. 22 neighbors attended up at Thompson's backyard, their rage apparent. They weren't homeowners only, they were a rebellion. Linda thought she governed unchallenged, but I'd called out the cavalry. The inspection day slammed like thunderclap. I'd complained to state agencies, timing them to avoid cover-ups by 10 a.m. 3 agency vans showed up, inspectors coming out with clipboards. I stood on the sidewalk watching as they swarmed the HOA's clubhouse office where Linda once banned oversized flags. She stormed up in pink clogs, arms flailing, voice shrill, demanding answers. The inspectors brought documents and went in. Linda froze, then glared at me, realizing I'd staged this. I waved drinking coffee. They found no accessible clubhouse entrance, a non-compliant ramp, and 0 ADA accommodations. Linda walked her lawn phone calls, ignored her allies, ghosting her. A local reporter alerted called for my statement. I forwarded her the footage, documents, and Sophie's story. Her article, HOA Throws Babies Oxygen in Faces. State ire was smoldering that night. Residents called for an emergency board meeting. I testified, presenting Linda's footage, playing her Belong Here audio, and chronicling her made-up rules and 80 infractions. Gasps echoed. Linda stormed in screaming, "I was a liar." But a neighbor yelled, "You threw a baby's oxygen, sit down." The group flipped the board, voted to suspend her 1 against. She stood seething as her authority disintegrated. The following day, she requested a restraining order, claiming I harassed and libeled her in court. She vented over her service while I displayed Sophie's equipment photo, the footage, and her doctored rules metadata. I read her text to a neighbor, baby or dog. "They're clogging up my street." The judge dismissed her complaint, warning her against legal abuse. She spat. This isn't over, but it was. The state was closing in and the neighborhood was alert. A week later, the Attorney General's office launched a state investigation into civil rights abuses, fraud, and HOA misconduct. I sued the HOA and Linda for ADA abuses, negligence, and emotional distress. Their lawyer made an offer of settlement, cash confidentiality. I demanded a public apology from Linda at an HOA meeting. She refused, her ego unyielding. The lawsuit became a spectacle. The reporter's story went viral, sparking regional news coverage and advocacy group support. Linda's allies vanished. Neighbors shunned her. Leaked HOA emails showed board members blaming her. Quit, citing moral disgust. Legal fees spiked HOA premiums, infuriating residents who faced assessments for Linda's mess in court. I stood with my wife Sophie in my arms, her tiny mask and beanie as silent testament. Linda sat white, avoiding our eyes. Her lawyer called it an error. I reported Sophie's condition, the terror of finding her tank gone stolen by a neighbor. For the sake of appearance over life, I played the video, read the metadata, played Linda's recording. The room went quiet. Linda would not speak. The jury deliberated. 45 minutes, awarding $1.2 million, half from the HOA, half from Linda. She was barred from HOA roll. Statewide outside cameras descended. But I just kissed Sophie and whispered, "We won, baby." Linda's vacant gaze as the verdict struck wasn't victorious, was justice. A year later, the neighborhood remained the same, but felt born again. Linda wasn't there. Her house sold quietly to a young family. The HOA renovated with actual elections. Open rules and ADA compliance. Residents spoke openly, helped each other, attended meetings. Sophie's health improved. She ran, laughed, played doctor with her toy stethoscope. We had a barbecue, the cul-de-sac alive with a grin, no clipboard in view. A letter came from a stranger, Emily, whose wheelchair-bound son received a ramp after our case, inspiring her to battle. Her photo showed him smiling. I was no hero, but a dad who wanted Sophie to breathe. But that effort echoed, exposing Linda's cruelty and motivating change. I walk along that curb, sometimes reminding myself of my useless anger. Now I see a community that clings together, a girl who sings to birds, and a silence in which terror reigned. Linda mistook a tank for clutter, that she didn't know it was my daughter's breathing, and for that she paid the ultimate price, not through vengeance, but through truth.